Hello Nashville. First and foremost, I'm happy to be here live in studio, WXNA on the Soul City.
Nice, yes.
All right.
We got you here today because we're interviewing you regarding your book, which is Leave Alive, Goodbye to Domestic Violence. And I know that's kind of a heavy topic, but you seem such like a bright and happy person. It could be heavy, or it could be an opening up. We don't know.
Well, I can tell you right now, the happiest thing is I'm alive.
Yes.
And I'm no longer a victim.
Nice.
Today I celebrate as a victor, and my aim today, the reason for being on your show, the reason for writing this book and having it published is because I want to also help other victims to walk away. It's not the easiest thing to do.
Yes.
It doesn't mean you're not strong, it doesn't mean you're not worth it, it doesn't mean nothing. It's just that sometimes we need a little help. And so that's what I'm here to do.
Wonderful,
That's
wonderful.
what I'm here to do.
Well, tell us a little bit about how did you end up in Nashville, or maybe just a little bit about your story, because your story really relates to the book itself, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So I ended up in Nashville almost 3 years ago, and as part of being a victim in the past was one of the reasons why I relocated from the state that I was in at that time. I also have family here,
Okay.
and we just wanted to be together, and they basically support me throughout it all. And I just think that if you do have family, make sure that you're building relationships with your family. It's very important, because at the end of the day, that's all you're gonna have.
Yes, for sure.
That's all you're gonna have. They will have your back. I know their family do have issues, but like during my worst time, that's when I saw the best out of my family. So I appreciate that much.
So the cover of your book shows a pregnant woman, and is that part of your story with domestic violence?
It is a part of my story, and I believe that using that picture as well shows that women can be way more vulnerable than men.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that men do not endure domestic abuse,
Yes.
but what I'm trying to say is that for a woman, if you're pregnant, you start asking yourself certain doubtful questions that's going to make you stay, because you're going to say, well, who's going to take me in? Who's going to take me and a baby in? Not just me.
Yes.
How am I going to survive? How am I going to take care of the kids? Because you may have other kids before that. And so being vulnerable, I think that's one of the stages that we as women, we tend to just lock into a shell and just stay, because you're looking at the fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
And so
So how did you, because you talked about your family, and I know that had to be a big help because you had some place to go to, but what else motivated you to get out of your situation?
well, I'm going to be honest with you. I grew up in a single parent home.
Okay.
So my mom, having been a strong woman, she walked away from my father, who's deceased. So, and at that time, my mother had 3 children.
Wow.
3 children. I was 2 months old when my mom walked away from an abusive relationship.
Wow.
My dad was alcoholic till the day he died.
Oh, man.
My sister was 4 years old at the time when my mom left, and I was 2 months old. My brother was only 5. And for my mom to walk away, and she always explained that to us, the reason why she left. The reason why she left, she did not want us to grow up and experience that. And of course, if we did, it would have 2 perspectives, because I do have a brother,
Yes.
that we do have the same father. And so my brother would grow up and think that it's okay to put his hand on a woman.
Yes.
And that's not okay. Me and my sister would grow up and think that it's okay for a man to hit us. It's okay, and it's not. So with my mom instilling that in us, telling us the story of how she ended up being a single mom, how she pushed through to send us through high school and college, was enough motivation for me to be able to identify what's worth it and what's not, what to walk away from and what to stay in. And so that for me has always been in my mind, in the back of my head, in my heart. And so I know what I'm worth. I'm always a confident person, always have been.
Yes.
And so again, not everybody has that. I think it has to do with the way you were raised, just your values growing up, your values as an adult,
Yes.
the things you value. And so how can you find what you value? If you ask a lot of people today, what do you value? What is your deal breaker? It took them a minute. It didn't take me much.
Yeah.
Because I know what my deal breaker is.
Exactly.
You're not gonna put your hands on me.
You're not putting my hands on me.
You're not gonna
today.
put no devil.
Exactly. Because the devil's a lie.
Yes,
Yes, he is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, look, what we're going to do is we're going to talk more about the book because it's not just your story. It's delving into different kinds of domestic violence and also how to get out and how to empower yourself. So let's sit back here with Danette Mahabeer, and she's talking about her book Leave Alive, and that track you heard she actually picked out, and it was Jhené Aiko, Lion King, and you're hearing it here and only here, Soul of the City, y'all. So I was just looking at the book while we were off mic. You just published this book.
Yes, ma'am. This book was published in February 2019.
Wow. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about how the book is broken up? Because I love the way it's set up, actually.
Well, first and foremost, just to give you like a brief summary of what this book,
Yes.
how it's written.
Uh-huh.
It's a summary, and the back right here it says it's designed as a guide and support for domestic violence victims to help in the fight to end abuse. So I specifically wrote this book with different chapters, if you look at the title page or the content page.
Uh-huh.
And so just breaking it down into different steps, because leaving an abusive relationship is not, it's not just something you just snap your finger and,
Yeah.
I mean, it can happen that way spontaneously,
Uh-huh.
but oftentimes it is a step-by-step situation. And I always tell people that even after you leave a domestic situation, your abuser is going to become retaliatory. It's just by nature for that person to become retaliatory for many different reasons. I'm going to just give you a few.
Okay.
They've lost control, and that's going to make them pretty mad. You lost control. You can no longer manipulate me. You can no longer control me and abuse me.
Yes.
That's going to make that person become retaliatory. With that said, after you walk away, there are still steps that you will have to take in order to stay alive, to
Yes.
stay safe.
Okay.
So the topic of the book is Leave Alive, because I want you to get out alive, but you still have a responsibility. And so not many people will know that, because if you've never been in it before, which I haven't, but having gone through it, I can help you now to know that there are steps that you still have to take after you leave.
Yeah.
You know,
For
after
sure.
you leave. So
So we talked about, one of the things we talked about off mic was the different kinds of abuse. And I thought it was interesting that you brought up financial abuse.
Yes,
Do you
ma'am.
want to kind of talk a little bit more about that?
Well, I think people today, most people do not realize that financial abuse is a thing. It's a form of abuse. It doesn't mean that somebody have to punch your head into the wall for it to be domestic violence.
Yes.
There are different aspects. And so as we elaborate on financial abuse, you are making your money. You're in a marriage. Your husband or your wife, you're making your separate money. Their bills, you guys should compromise. But if somebody is telling you that, or controlling your entire earning,
Yeah.
that is abuse. You should have some say. And I just think that many people today do not realize that if someone is trying to control your finances in a certain way, it is abuse.
And it comes
It
in
is
different
abuse.
ways. And basically with financial, I feel like, you've been married and I'm currently married. Those are things that you negotiate. But if you feel bullied into a certain financial situation, because I've had people that I know where their partner would only pay certain bills in the house, even though both members used it, okay? There would never be a joint pot, for example. And so they did not feel like they had that the marriage or the financial part of the marriage or the financial part of the relationship was fair, But then some people, it's like, yeah, I want separate. I want completely separate. I want to have mine so that you can't tell me what to do. It's all in a matter of what you agree to, you know what I'm saying?
It's all about compromising. And so
Yeah.
there has to be some form of compromising. You cannot just take somebody's hard-earned money and just believe that they should just sit aside and let you do what you want to do with it.
Yeah.
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 So however you guys decide to split the bills in the house and it's all about compromising, but it shouldn't be about abuse.
Exactly.
And, my finances, don't abuse that.
Yeah. So I was looking through some of the chapters. You got raising warriors, encouraging confidence, building self-esteem, identifying toxic relationships, and avoiding them. I like this one called Live to Love, Not Love to Death.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So how I've heard a lot of situations where men or women will take sections of the Bible that are applicable to making them seem like a stronger person. Oh, well, the Bible said this. Like a man would take it, oh, well, you should serve your husband, or your husband is the head of the house. And they use it in different contexts wrongfully to their advantages.
Yeah.
So in the Bible, it talks about till death do us part. The operative word to me right here, or two operative statement, till death, but it says us.
Yes.
So this I love you to death can be a very dangerous thing, because to me that comes off as I love you till you die.
Yes.
Not till death do us part.
Yes.
I love you till you die. And so why don't love me until one of us die, but till I die? Like, how do you know I'm gonna die?
Exactly.
So, and normally when they say, well, I love you to death, and it means, hey, ego comes in, jealousy, envy. If I can't have you, nobody else can.
Exactly.
So you have to be careful. Like, oh, well, he said he loves me. What kind of love? What type of love are you're referring to right here?
Okay. So what about in terms of, because we've been talking a lot about marriages, but what about in terms of relationships where you're not married to the person? Maybe you don't even have children with the person. You're just dating that person. Those relationships are hard to get out of too.
They are.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think you can still find, so what you have to look for in any abusive relationship, you have to start looking for the signs and symptoms for you to identify that you are in a domestic abusive relationship, whether it's marriage or not. First, you have to know the symptoms, the signs. If you don't know these signs to look for, you will not even know that you are being abused. So this book has all those listed in there. These are some of the traits that you look for, like narcissists and psychopaths.
Yeah.
They do have signs and symptoms, and you have to know them when you see one. You have to be able to identify. It may take you a while, but it shouldn't. And if you have something like this as a guide, this book as a guide, you should be better able to identify one. Even if you're just courting, like you meet somebody, in 2 weeks time you should be able to tell this is not the right thing for me, because these are some of the signs that I've seen. Get a pen and a paper, like get logical.
Yeah.
This is what
Trust
he's
your
done.
gut. Trust
your gut. These are the things that he has done so far. These are the good things. Is it balanced? Is it even worth it if it's even balanced? Like, do you really want it to be a good and bad balance? It shouldn't have to be that way. Yeah. So learn the signs and symptoms of these abusers, what to look for, and that will help you in walking away and staying safe.
Awesome.